and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. Coffee. Perfect tuning. Boss CH1 Super Chorus. Anti-gravity hybrid slinkies. Portal to another dimension. Today I'm going to be answering a question that was sent in by Scott, who's in Newcastle, just down the road from me. And Scott says, I'm pretty much a beginner and I'm starting to learn basic chords. I'm a little bit confused, however, as I thought I'd learned how to play a C major chord, and he's drawn out a C major chord that looks like this. And he says, however, I've been looking at some tutorials online and I found someone that says the C major chord actually looks like this, and he's drawn another chord diagram that looks like this one. I'm confused. Which one should I have learned? Which one's right? Which one's wrong? Okay, good question. I can understand why you've been confused because there are lots of different ways of playing a chord. The answer is they're both right. Let's take a look at the first chord that you mentioned, which is the C major chord. It looks like this. Let's just spend a few minutes looking at the notes involved in that chord. Okay, so going from top to bottom, we've got the open E string, so we've got an E in there. We've got the second string fretted at the first fret, so the B string up by one fret gives us a C. We've got an open third string, so that's a G. We've got a second fret down on the fourth string. So the open string there would be a D, so that's D, D sharp, E. And we're fretting at the third fret on the fifth string. Fifth string open is A, so that's A, A sharp, B, C, because there's no B sharp, go straight to C. So we've got C on the fifth string. And we've got an open E string on the bottom there. Which means the only notes that we've got in that chord, for all we're playing 6 strings, the only notes that we've got are a C, an E and a G. And those are the, if you like, the formula or the recipe for a C major chord. Now if you really want to get into the music theory, I've done other tutorials about how chords are built. But for now, if you're a beginner, you probably don't want to be getting into the theory, you just want to know which chords you should be playing and how to play them. So, for now what we need to think about is if you take a scale, so if we take the C major scale, what we can do is take alternate notes out of that. So start on the C, skip over the D to get to the E, and skip over the F to get to the G. So C, E and G, those are the 3 notes that make up the C major chord. Now each type of chord that you come across in music, whether it's major or minor or some sort of extended chord or a 7th chord or suspended chord, there's loads of different types of chord. Don't worry about all these different chord types for now. If you're just learning the basic chords, stick with the ones that you're learning. Now all the different chord types have different formula. So the C major chord is a major type of chord, so it has the formula 1, 3 and 5, those alternate notes. So let's fire up PhatPhish. If you don't have a copy of PhatPhish, you can download it from here, and what you can do is fire that up and put it into arpeggio mode, and let's set it for C major arpeggio. Arpeggio basically is another way of saying the notes of the chord. So what we can see here in PhatPhish is the notes of the C major chord laid out right the ways across the neck. So you can take any of those notes. Now as long as you have at least one C, one E and one G, you've got a C major chord. So if we can highlight out some notes out of this arpeggio pattern, this is the chord that you said you'd first learn to play. But you said there were some alternate fingerings that you'd seen one that looks like this. As we can see, if we look at the notes, that's equally valid because it also has a C, an E and a G in it. It's got one less E and one less G, but it's still got C, E and G, so it's still a C major chord. And this is true of any type of chord that you play, whether it's major, minor, diminished, 7th, suspended, or augmented, all the different types of chord you come across. As long as you have one each of the notes that make up chord formula, then that's the chord, which means that there's more than one way of playing any given chord. As you found out, there's this way of playing a C major chord, there's this way of playing a C major chord, there's also this way of playing a C major chord. Now each one's got a slightly distinctive voice to it because of the number of higher notes and lower notes and so on. And you might want to use certain fingerings in preference to others just because of where you happen to be on the neck when you're playing a piece, and it'll sound better or it's more convenient to play with one fingering rather than another. But in terms of the actual music and the theory in which notes need to be in the chord, they're all equally valid in terms of music theory. It's just, this is where it becomes more of a creative and an artistic exercise. The science is knowing what notes are in the chord. The creativity and the musicality is knowing which one of those shapes you want to use to give you a particular sound and make your composition, you make your music sound the way that it does. I'll quickly talk about inversions, because this is something a word that you might come across when you're looking at chords. Now, an inversion basically is taking the chord and specifying which note is played as the lowest note. So in the case of the C major chord that we're looking at here, you've got C, E and G. C is the root note, E is the third, G is the fifth. Now if we play that chord so that C is the lowest note in the chord, so if we take this C major chord that you started with, but we'll not play the bottom string, we'll just play the top five, that's what's called a root position chord, because the C, the lowest note of the chord, is in the root. Now we could play all 6 strings, and we've got the E in the bass note. Now the E is the 3rd degree of the scale, so that makes that a first inversion chord. And if we play it with the G is the lowest note, so we'll play a fingering that looks like this, that's what's known as a second inversion chord, because the 5th degree of the scale is the lowest note. Just a way of talking about it and specifying exactly which note you want to play. Now within there you've still got some flexibility as to what are the notes you play, just by saying it's root position, first inversion or second inversion is just specifying which is the lowest note out of those 3 possible notes to have in the bass. When you're first coming into music theory and learning chords, it can be a bit confusing, but stick with it. Once you get into the theory behind chords, it's actually quite mathematical, it's quite formulaic. It's actually quite regular and quite easy to learn with, because you've got patterns that kind of repeat themselves. But to basically answer your question, Scott, both of those chords and several other shapes that you come across are all valid. They're all C major chords because they contain C, E and G. That's what makes a C major chord a C major chord. Likewise, if you looked at a D major chord would contain D, F sharp and A, you could have any combination of those anywhere on the neck. As long as you've got one D, one F sharp and one A, you've still got a D major chord. Okay, if you've got a question of your own and you'd like to send it in or suggest a subject for a future tutorial video, then follow the link down here and there's a form where you can submit your question. If you like the video, please click the like button down there. If you really like it, then please subscribe to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio channel on YouTube by clicking on the subscribe button, which is also down there somewhere. As always, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in another video next time. Bye for now.